Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing alright today. Dogs walked, watered, fed. The world is great. Let's get back to doing the news. Let me check my mic. Always check your mic. Good. Guys, I want to thank everyone who assists and helps with the show. You guys are an immense appreciation. You guys help the show keep ticking along, especially now since the channel has been demonetized. The reason why that little blurb is in the bottom is because it allows a secondary donation mechanism. As opposed to using Super Chat, it allows you to use PayPal. A donation through that will bring up a little Star Trek icon who would dance and shake and rattle for your pleasure. Now that that's out the way, I hate saying that. That's not a push, by the way. That's just a heads up. All right, this one is going to be quick. teleSUR America has been not demonetized, has been taken away from Facebook. They pulled down the page. They haven't necessarily given any reason or rationale for doing this. They've just pulled down the page. Now, I've made the point on numerous occasions that what's taking place with Alex Jones is not going to just stand with Alex Jones. It's like there's a bad smell in a corner, and you're expecting that bad smell to stay in the corner, that it won't linger closer. The rationale and reasoning for taking down Jones in this case started with this idea of Russian hacking, Russia collusion, Russian meddling, something that they haven't necessarily been able to prove, that they made all these assertions on. But stepping away from that for the moment, all of this, the context of all of this, is taking place in something that's purely political. That's what I'm getting at. No one in their right mind, at least no honest actor, will say Russia had an impact on the election. Rodstein doesn't even go that far to say that. He doesn't even make the association between an American actor and part of the process. Meaning, even if you go with what they got as a mainstream narrative, the mainstream narrative doesn't include American components to this. But that's beyond the point. My main point to this was the censorship that was being generated here wasn't being done at the behest of the companies. It was being done at the behest of the political apparatus that didn't want to deal with the populist uprising. And they put pressure on these private entities to do what they themselves couldn't do. Seeing that speech at this point has been predominantly taken into private interest, meaning public speech is now one of these things on the private platforms. You've given private platforms magnificent amount of authority with regards to this idea of speech. If the political apparatus is going to do an end run around the First Amendment and put pressure on the private apparatus to shut down speech that they don't want to deal with, then yeah, the First Amendment needs to be strengthened. The reason they're doing this is not purely for, oh God, Alex Jones is horrible, we need to get rid of Alex Jones. If the companies themselves had made that decision to do it, Alex Jones, if we're being honest, should have gotten rid of years ago. All of this came about from political pressure to do this. And because this is coming about from political pressure to do this, I guarantee you it would not stop with Jones. If the argument is going to be made that the terms of use is God, and that these companies are God, and now that you have political discourse, public discourse taking place on private systems, those private systems under that argument can do whatever they want. They can erase people, they can get rid of people, they can subjectively read the terms of service. Hey, maybe when you're not saying, when you don't agree with the Russian meddling stuff, maybe you're breaking our terms of service now, our terms of use now. If we're going to have platforms that are going to allow people to give their 2 cents, and if 70%, which is at this point 70% of the news is consumed through these platforms, the public discourse is done through these platforms, yeah, I don't think it's insane to say that there may be some protections to extend to the platforms themselves so people aren't necessarily grossly biased from platforms, especially these magnificent platforms. The idea that somebody would say, hey, you should go start your own platform at this point when 70% of the market share is co-opted. It's nonsense. It's lunacy. This is what we got. Do you use these things as public utilities, which I'm not opposed to? I'm okay with that. Or do you extend the privacies and the protections of the First Amendment? Or do you do a little bit of both? All I'm saying here is when we're doing what we do, we're absolutely vulnerable. And these Facebook, Twitter, Google. For all intents and purposes, these things shape reality as we know it, because ultimately what you see on those things, you're going to take it to some degree as your reality, seeing as you're getting your news from those sources. No different than if you're in the 40s or the 50s and you're getting your point of view from television. Or if you were in Germany, you're listening to a radio, it's your first time having a radio, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's speaking to me on the radio, and that guy just so happens to be Hitler. I'm saying our reality is shaped by what we're taking in. And it's just so happened that what we're taking in is entirely done by these private corporations, Facebook, Twitter, Google. And these private corporations are not neutral platforms. They have their own interests. I don't think it's insane to say when people are having their political discourse, in the same way that if you go into a shop, all of the rules of the shop are not necessarily made by the shop owner. There's certain boundaries that the shop has to deal with just by virtue of opening the store. Just because you are Hispanic, I can't say I don't serve Hispanics, get out of here. Part of the price of opening my shop and doing business is that I have to do business openly and fairly with the people who are in the society. I don't necessarily think it's all that insane if something similar is applied to the digital space, especially now seeing as we're in a new climate in the way that information and the way public discourse is being had. That's a lot of wood to chop, but I say all that because I'm just making this point that teleSUR is not the only site that gets taken down. You have all sorts of Palestinian sites that have been taken down. teleSUR has been taken down apparently twice. Amazing Atheist was taken down on a whim. He, out of satire, taken down. They re-added him, but the fact that they took him down in the first place is problematic. All of this is unaccountable. All of this. Totalitarian company making full choice on what they want and how they can subjectively interpret the rules. I'm saying we are all vulnerable in how we go about our affairs. And some of us have taken this thing of using this as a career. Yes, myself. But I'm saying all of us, many of us, who've decided to do platforms and to do the news in these platforms are vulnerable. There are no unions. There are no free speech rights. There's nothing. You're at the behest of a totalitarian company that at this point has the overwhelming majority of market share, meaning you're not getting anything else. So what do? Are you really going to make this argument for free speech of the corporation? Or are you going to make the argument that, hey, maybe we do need some level of protections as human beings if this is going to be the new normal for the way we go about our public discourse? teleSUR America should not be taken down. If they're not breaking any rules, not rules made by the corporation and they be interpreted in these subjective ways. This is kind of my point when I'm saying we need something that goes beyond just these corporations making their own rules. A new, revitalized First Amendment for our digital age. Let's take a look at this story real quick, because I don't want this one to be long. This one is getting longer than I want. This is the second time the teleSUR English page has been taken down by Facebook moderators. teleSUR English page has been removed from Facebook for the second time this year without any specific reason for provided. They don't have to. They're a totalitarian system. They can do whatever they want. They can say, oh, you broke this rule, and bam, you're gone. You can appeal it. Who you're going to appeal it to? This is not a governmental system. This is not a democratic system. This is kind of my point. Do you really want to leave free speech at the behest of non-neutral multinational corporations? Facebook did not provide any explanation in spite of our best efforts to understand their rationale. This is an alarming development in light of the recent shutting down of pages that don't fit a mainstream narrative. Also, many Palestinian sites have been shut down at the behest of the Israeli government, making this weird argument that by virtue of being Palestinian, you're somehow anti-Semitic. It's nonsense, but they use it nonetheless. You can make an argument that being a Palestinian site, you're somehow antagonistic to Israel, but that's somewhat of a weird way. And it may even be true, but in the opposite way. The very fact that Palestinians want to exist to some degree gets in the way of Israel's attempt at cleansing that land. Meaning, if their goal is to ethnically cleanse that area, which seems to be their goal, And you're Palestinian. Well, by virtue of your existence, you're standing in the way of them doing that. They don't like it. They've been attacking and pushing Facebook and other organizations to take these places and take these sites off. teleSUR America is just one of the sites. Well, not from Israel, but just one of the sites to take this hit from this mainstream narrative thing of, you're not towing the mainstream narrative, we're taking you down. That's amazing. That should be worrying. To lefties, to people on the right, that should be worrying. I don't understand lefties making this argument that taking down Alex Jones is fucking awesome, because the same argument they'd use to take down Alex Jones will be the same argument they'd use to take down you. What you're pushing is just your perspective. You don't have an absolute perspective. I would agree with you that Alex Jones is a goddamn goofball. And yeah, all things being equal, it's not that I love Alex Jones being on ranting and raving, but I recognize that my perspective is a subset of a sea of perspectives. And in that subset of a sea of perspectives, there are other perspectives that can accrue, and the same rule or rationale that I use to get rid of Alex Jones can be the same rule and rationale that's used to get rid of me. It doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong or not. Right or wrong has nothing to do with it. Democratic decisions don't have to be right. People can democratically do things that are fucking horrendous. The boot that you use to take out Jones may be the boot that's used to take out you later on. And in this case, that boot is used to take out teleSUR and Palestinian pages. And let's be honest, Black Agenda Report, that's another one that's been taking a hit. Truthdig, another one that's been taking a hit. You have all sorts of lefty sites that's been taking a hit from the standpoint of their coverage. 70%, 60% drop in their viewership. Shortly after the news, the administrator of Revolutionary News informed his personal Facebook page that he has received a warning from Facebook second after he has scheduled his very article on Facebook page of the Revolutionary News. Exactly 20 seconds after scheduling an article about Facebook removing the teleSUR English page from the platform with no reason given, I received a notification from them. I'll be stunned if they don't take down Rev News by the end of the year. Essentially, they're threatening him to. Meanwhile, followers and supporters of teleSUR English sent out tweets and posts from Facebook and Twitter and other social media websites denouncing the unexplained actions by Facebook and arguing that such moves rooted in Facebook's own bias against outlets and news organizations that don't fit within the mainstream media landscape. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Max Blumenthal, the guy who won't come to my channel. Facebook tells deleted page teleSUR English. A network source tells me that Facebook justified eliminating the page on the vague basis of violation of terms. The NATO-backed DFR lab is currently assisting Facebook's purge. This is deeply disturbing. Also, several news outlets such as RT and Venezuela Analysis, which its own Facebook page was removed briefly last year. Democracy Now! and others reported on the news and expressed concern over the removal of teleSUR English page. These are Americans that work there. The stories they do are stories that they want to do, that other channels don't bring them on. I've been getting on Sputnik Radio. They have a Sputnik radio station in Washington, D.C. that have allowed me to come on and run my mouth. The thing is, what I'm saying for the most part is what this kind of opinion that is aggregated around the left. This is just how we've come to think. We haven't been prodded to do this because of Russia. We haven't been prodded to do this because of anything else other than the circumstances on the ground, growing up and living in this country today. Regular media won't put that perspective on. Or it's few and far between. Every so often, Cal will get on Fox News. They tried to put a knife in Cal last time he was on Fox News, sandbagged him. But it's few and far between where you would get a perspective on that challenges the war stuff, like openly challenges the war stuff, challenges the modus operandi to which both parties agree upon. So you have other networks. And those other networks are anti-establishment. And they're taking those down. Like, I guess I'm making a point that I'm not making a point. Noam Chomsky once, they asked Noam Chomsky, why aren't your opinions more valued? And Noam Chomsky made the point to him, When have you ever heard my opinions expressed on television? Like, you would never see me sitting on MSNBC having a conversation about the war thing. This opinion is not espoused. The way this opinion gets espoused is through other channels. Channels like teleSUR English. Channels like teleSUR English. I am sorry for the lefties that believe that this is not happening to you. It is not just Jones. Jones is just the flashpoint of this particular battle. I would agree with you that Jones is a goofball. And I would even agree with you that there should be some kind of democratic, well, not agree with you, but I would hope that you would agree with me that there should be some democratically chosen standard by which we can agree upon from the standpoint of speech. I say that from this level of protection from us as we do our thing either online. And even if we make this agreement of, yes, there are lines that you can't go past, and maybe Jones have gone past those lines, at the very least we need to make a determination that there needs to be some level of protections from the standpoint of speech in this new digital age. Facebook has a magnificent amount of market share. Facebook and Google, if I'm not mistaken, 70% of market share from the standpoint of news. And they are shaping your reality and excluding certain items that don't line up with their own political identity, which is, again, wouldn't be such a big deal if they didn't have 70% of the market share. The idea that you can go and just start another Facebook is lunacy. I'm not in this. Look, I am okay. If somebody said, hey, let's nationalize these things, fair enough. I don't think that's going to happen. And because I don't think that's going to happen, I think between the two, to split the difference, strengthening of the First Amendment is a potential way to go about it. If a company is a speech company, meaning a company like Google or Facebook, that their entire existence depends upon people posting information, posting data, then maybe should be some level of a fairness doctrine or some extension of a First Amendment in the way that we go about affairs, especially since this seems to be the new normal from the standpoint of speech and public discourse. So if somebody says, do you want to use this as a public utility? Yes. If they say nationalize it, yes. I don't care how you go about creating these protections. I am less picky on this front. I'm just saying those protections need to be put in place. And I am not even all that concerned if Alex Jones falls outside of those protections. teleSUR English, however, should fall within those protections. Palestinian pages should fall within those protections. If the pages are not being belligerent, overtly violent, yeah, I think we should have limits, but I think those limits should be not necessarily done through this kind of terms of use. It should be done through a democratic choice. Hope that makes sense. We don't allow businesses to do any and everything that they want on their grounds. So this idea that it's a private entity, it can do whatever it wants, doesn't fly for me. Private entities can't do whatever they want in all sorts of situations. Can't, if I walk into a restaurant, you have to serve me the moment that you open your business. You have to, you can't say, I don't like Chinamen, so I'm not going to serve Chinamen. It's nonsense. And we are in a new reality from the standpoint of media. It needs to be acknowledged as such. And this is a censorship, to some degree, a war based on these guys not wanting to deal with the populism that's, you can say, natural outgrowth of our political affairs and the failure of this kind of neoliberal politics, this markets over human beings. Half of the country is in poverty or struggling to make ends meet. I mean, you have like the richest country on the planet, and 60% don't have $500 in the bank. This is fucking atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And then you add in bills from healthcare, car loans, education, any and everything from the cradle of the grave. Somebody is hitting you over your head and reaching into your pocket. And that is the modus operandi and the way that we go about our affairs as normal. Wage slaves. Wage slaves. It's not normal. We can have any world that we want. This is not the world that we should have. At least I don't think it is. This one has gone longer than I wanted, so I'm going to end this here. I have additional ones, but teleSUR, taking the hit. there's people here. I'm surprised there's people here with this one. The internet bill is a gatekeeper to the internet knowledge. It has become clear to me that it is vitally important to wage a war on this. Like the left, even if the left doesn't necessarily agree on the level, it needs to at the very least agree that there should be some protections. We have no protections. Do you understand this? Like, my channel was shut down on a whim. They don't have to give you explanation. They don't have to give you reason. You're on our site, so, you can do whatever you want. That said, YouTube does not exist if people don't put their content on YouTube. Meaning YouTube uses content, uses labor, but for all intents and purposes is a platform that is picking winners and losers. Their algorithm, all that stuff. Do you really want a platform that is purely reliant upon the speech of the people who are on the platform to be the entire choice of winners and losers? It seemed magnificently unfair, especially when you have this huge amount of market share. This idea of go start your own is nonsense. They're not enforcing antitrust. YouTube has a terms of use that for the most part makes all intents and purposes make seem like God. People have their businesses intertwined into this, and yet they have no say-so. There's no union in the case of YouTube. I don't understand the argument where people wouldn't argue for protections, for democratically chosen protections. I heard Ben Dixon say, well, we can make a democratic choice to silence somebody. Yeah, you can make a democratic choice also to protect yourself. Fuck, man. He put out a thing saying the free speech absolutionist was the reason why we have Hitler. That's utter nonsense. That's utter nonsense. He can't be serious. He can't be serious. It's like the opposite. It's like the opposite. All right, I'm going to end this because I have more that I want to do for tonight. I didn't get the chance to do them earlier today. So I will end this here. He's lost it. My guess. Yeah, I think he's lost it. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. Or, in this case, the donation bar at the bottom. Thanks, guys. And we are... Oh, thanks for the audience inclusion. I try. I don't always have a huge amount of time to do it just because I may run long. Honestly, what I'm thinking about hiring somebody to cut the videos. My cousin is looking for a position, and I'm thinking I'm going to let him go through and chop the videos. That way I get more videos, and he can add stuff like a intro and all this other stuff. I hate doing that stuff. He needs a job. So I think it may be a good idea. All right, let me end this. All right, guys. I'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.